usually, like a medical diagnosis is binary, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty straightforward.
Right. Like
Yeah.
you break your arm, the x-ray shows that jagged white line, and the doctor just points at it and says, there it is.
Right. It's clean.
Yeah, it's clean, it's visible, and in a weird way, it's comforting. But if you look at the global venture capital landscape today, and I mean, really look at it, the x-ray is murky.
Oh, totally. It's unreadable at this point.
Completely unreadable.
Yeah.
The diagnostic tools we've used for, what, the last 20 years?
At least 20 years. Yeah.
The tools we've used to measure the health and, the trajectory in the tech industry, they are just fundamentally broken.
They are completely inadequate for what is actually happening beneath the surface right now. I mean, we are trying to measure a tectonic shift with a yardstick.
The yardstick, exactly.
The scale of ambition right now, specifically regarding artificial intelligence and global infrastructure, it's simply outgrown the frameworks that Silicon Valley built its entire reputation on.
Which brings us to today's deep dive. We are looking at a diagnostic roadmap, essentially, from a tech visionary who believes those old tools aren't just inadequate, but that they are actively holding back human progress.
That's a huge claim.
It is. So to set the stage for you, the listener, today is May 17th, 2026, and we are unpacking a really fascinating, staggeringly ambitious stack of sources.
Yeah, it's a lot of material.
It's a ton. We've got a personal website, a massive flurry of tweets, and a really prolific blog network from an author and thinker named Paramendra Kumar Bhagat.
And the worldview presented in these documents is nothing short of an attempt to completely rewrite the rules of global technological funding.
Literally rewriting the rule book.
Right. We're looking at a proposed geopolitical shift in computing power, like a literal triangle of influence between the United Arab Emirates, India, and Nepal.
Which is not your usual tech corridor.
Not at all. And at the center of it all is a pitch for a massive compute infrastructure project that is, well, it's intentionally designed to be too big for a traditional venture capitalist to even comprehend, let alone fund.
So buckle up.
Yeah.
Seriously, because we are leaving the romanticized Silicon Valley startup garage totally in the rearview mirror today.
Yeah, we are way past the barrage phase.
Way past it.
Yeah.
This is about sovereign wealth funds, Himalayan computing centers, and trillion-dollar valuations. So let's start with the central thesis running through all of his posts from today.
Okay, let's do it.
The foundational claim he makes is that the era of the unicorn is dead.
Right. And to really understand the gravity of that claim, we kind of have to look at what the unicorn represented for, the listener who might not be in the VC trenches every day.
Yeah, break that down for us.
So in tech parlance, a unicorn is a privately held startup valued at over $1 billion.
$1 billion with a B.
Exactly. And for the last 10 to 15 years, that was the gold standard. That was the finish line.
Right. If you hit that, you won the game.
Yeah, if you built a software as a service company that hit $1 billion valuation, you rang the bell, you took it public, and you basically retired a legend.
But the author is saying that finish line is now just the starting line.
Which is wild to think about.
It is. He writes, let me find the quote here. The world has moved. Now we are in the Solara era. In 10 years, there will be as many Solaras as there are unicorns today.
A Solara?
Yeah, a term he coined. He defines a Solara as a trillion-dollar company.
Trillion, with a T.
Adding 3 zeros to the baseline of success,
I
mean, that changes the underlying physics of the business world, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. 1,000 times bigger isn't just a change in scale, it's a change in category.
Right.
Like, building $1 billion software company required maybe a few $1 million in seed funding, some brilliant coders, and, AWS server space. You could run lean.
The classic lean startup.
Exactly. But building a $1 trillion company in the AI era, that requires massive physical infrastructure.
Like concrete and steel.
Yes. It requires land, staggering amounts of energy, advanced thermodynamics for cooling, and highly specialized continental-scale hardware.
Okay, let's unpack this for the listener, because I have a slightly skeptical question here. Is coining a new term like Solara just a marketing gimmick, or does this reflect a genuine physical necessity for scale in 2026?
That's the core question, isn't it?
Right. Because to me, a unicorn is like building a really successful, highly engineered luxury car. You can do that in a relatively small factory with a tight team.
Sure.
But a Solara isn't a car. It's like building the entire interstate highway system.
That's a great analogy.
You cannot bootstrap a highway system organically. You can't just iterate your way into it.
No, you definitely can't.
It requires sovereign land rights, eminent domain, and billions of dollars in concrete before a single car even drives on it.
And that is a crucial distinction. The highway system is foundational infrastructure. And that is exactly what the author is arguing AI compute has become.
It's the roads.
Right. It's not an app you run on a phone anymore. It is the physical substrate of the new economy. And because the capital expenditure, the sheer cost of the concrete, to use your analogy, is so astronomically high, traditional venture capital is structurally incapable of funding it.
Which leads directly to his critique of Silicon Valley VCs. He's got this blog post titled Himalayan Compute, 100 VCs Who Said No.
I love that title.
It's great. And even if there's a layer of satire in that specific title, the underlying rejection is entirely serious. He writes that they are trapped in their own unicorn frameworks.
Well, because VCs are operating on 10-year fund life cycles, right?
Yeah.
They need to show returns to their limited partners within that window.
They want quick wins.
Exactly. They are looking for low capex, high margin software businesses that can pivot if the market changes. They are inherently risk averse when it comes to massive upfront physical infrastructure.
Right, they don't want to buy the land for the highway.
No, they just want to fund the toll booth software.
Huh. Okay, well, he illustrates this disconnect with a metaphor that I haven't been able to stop thinking about. It's so vivid.
The Columbus one.
Yes. He tweets, when you are going to the moon, you start with rocket fuel. VCs in Silicon Valley be like, why do you need rocket fuel?
Huh?
Columbus did not need rocket fuel. Columbus did not go to the moon. Columbus did not even end up in India. He got lost.
It is a devastating critique of the lean startup methodology.
It really is.
I mean, think about it. Christopher Columbus is the ultimate lean startup founder.
Oh, wow. I never thought of it like that.
Right. He had a high-risk thesis. He secured a relatively small amount of capital in the form of 3 wooden ships.
The seed round.
Exactly, the Spanish seed round. And he relied on the wind, which is essentially free, much like organic viral marketing in the early internet days.
Okay, this is blowing my mind a little bit.
And he bumped into a continent through pure serendipity.
Right. But you can't rely on serendipity in a vacuum.
You certainly cannot. A moonshot does not allow for a pivot. You cannot launch a rocket, realize halfway through the stratosphere that you miscalculated the trajectory, and just, do a software patch.
Hold on, guys. Let's just iterate on the engines real quick.
Right. It doesn't work. It is highly engineered, mathematically precise, massively capitalized physics. You either have the rocket fuel to break atmospheric drag on day 1, or you explode on the launch pad.
So when VCs ask him why he needs so much capital up front, they are just revealing that they don't understand the atmospheric drag of the AI era.
Precisely. They are still trying to discover India in wooden ships while he's trying to build SpaceX.
Okay, so if he is actively walking away from the venture capital establishment, what exactly is the term sheet he is putting out into the universe?
Let's get into the numbers, because they are wild.
The numbers in his pitch for Himalayan Compute are absolutely wild. He is asking for a $100 million investment, but the terms are dictatorial.
Yeah, he's not asking, he's demanding.
He states, ask, 100M at a 1B valuation, born a unicorn.
Born a unicorn. That phrase is doing a lot of heavy lifting.
What does that even mean in practice?
The implication there is that the sheer assembly of the vision, the architecture of the deal, is worth $1 billion the moment the ink dries on the check.
So before a single server rack is installed in the Himalayas, the company is valued at $1 billion.
Right. And he projects that this will turn into a Solara, a $1 trillion valuation in 10 years.
Which is a staggering promised return. But I really want to scrutinize the rollout plan he proposes for this $100 million because it moves at breakneck speed.
It's incredibly aggressive.
It's a 4-step release over just a few months. So step 1 is the ideation phase, 1 month. And for this, he is asking for $100,000.
To basically sit in a room and map out the architecture of a $1 trillion entity.
Wait. $100K just to think for a month?
Yeah.
I mean, here's where it gets really interesting for you, the listener, because the confidence here is staggering. Is it genius or is it hubris? Because in the real world, asking a sovereign wealth fund for $100 grand just to ideate without getting laughed out of the room sounds like a grifter's term sheet.
I know, it sounds absurd if you view it through the lens of a software startup. But if you view it through the lens of building a nuclear power plant or an interstate highway system, $100,000 for the foundational architectural blueprint is actually a rounding error.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because if you get the blueprint wrong on a $1 trillion infrastructure project, the failure costs tens of billions.
Right. You have to rip up the concrete.
Exactly. He is demanding the capital to ensure the foundational physics of the business model are flawless before he hires a single engineer.
Okay, I see that now. You don't skimp on the architect when you're building a skyscraper.
No, you pay the architect first.
So then we move to step 2, core team formation. That's month 2, and he asks for $1 million.
Which scales up fast.
Right. Then step 3 is multi-continental presence in month 3 for $4 million.
Which means setting up the global footprint.
And finally, step 4 releases the remaining $95 million to actually start pouring the concrete and building the compute infrastructure.
It is a capital velocity that demands absolute conviction in the product.
And the product here is compute,
Right.
which he justifies using another analogy. I love this guy's analogies. He tweets, "Electricity is Apple. Compute is applesauce. Tremendous value add."
I mean, it sounds simple, but let's break down the mechanics of that value add.
Yeah, please.
So electricity is a raw utility, right? It powers modern society, but the profit margin per unit is incredibly low.
You don't pay a premium for luxury electricity.
Exactly. You just pay for the kilowatt hours. It's the unrefined fruit. But compute taking that electricity and running it through highly specialized silicon to train artificial neural networks is the industrial processing of that raw utility.
It's the difference between owning the plot of land and owning the toll road built on top of it.
That is the perfect way to frame it. The toll road is where the margin is.
Right. He's saying don't just own the electricity, own the
Oh.
toll road where all the artificial intelligence traffic of the entire global economy has to pay a fee to cross.
Yes, compute is heavily processed, highly consumable, and it solves complex problems that raw electricity cannot. By framing compute as the ultimate processed product, the applesauce, he is arguing that the owner of the compute infrastructure controls the single highest margin commodity of the 2026 economy.
So he has the blueprint for the toll road, but Silicon Valley won't give him the concrete.
Right, they're out.
So where does he turn? This is where the deep dive moves from, like tech economics into high-level geopolitics.
This is the most fascinating part to me.
He starts looking east, and he starts looking south. He bypasses Sand Hill Road entirely and starts directly tweeting at the sovereign wealth funds of the United Arab Emirates.
Bypassing the VCs entirely.
Entirely. He tags Mubadala, ADQ, ICD Dubai, Sam Sharjah, RX Summit, and he's tagging geopolitical leaders like Mohammed bin Zayed of the UAE, Narendra Modi of India, and Balin Shah, the mayor of Kathmandu.
Which makes sense because the shift from venture capital to sovereign wealth is a fundamental change in time horizons.
How so?
Well, we discussed how VCs have 10-year fund life cycles, right? Sovereign wealth funds have multi-generational time horizons.
Oh, like century-long planning.
Exactly. They are managing the wealth of entire nations, often built on finite resources like oil, and their mandate is to secure the economic viability of their country 50 or 100 years into the future.
And his argument to the UAE is that they've spent decades diversifying their portfolio, real estate, aviation, sports. But Himalayan Compute represents a quantum leap in that strategy.
Because if oil powered the 20th century, compute powers the 21st.
Right.
The UAE has the capital, and they understand the necessity of securing foundational resources. But here is the physical constraint of the UAE. Data centers generate massive amounts of heat.
Yeah, they run hot.
Running advanced AI compute in a desert requires an astronomical amount of energy just for the cooling systems alone.
It's like leaving the AC running with the windows open in the middle of summer. So you have the money, but where do you put the heat?
Exactly the problem. And that is where the geography of this pitch becomes its secret weapon. He is drawing a triangle.
Okay, walk us through the triangle.
First, he points to India. The sources mention this Condor Galaxy India concept, highlighting that India and the UAE are already actively teaming up on compute infrastructure.
Right, because India has the engineering talent and this massive internal market, while the UAE brings the capital.
It establishes a precedent. The UAE is already comfortable deploying massive capital into South Asia, but the author stretches that partnership northward into the Himalayas.
Which brings us to the Nepali connection.
Yes.
And for the listener, this is the part of the pitch that feels entirely different from a standard business proposal. It's deeply historical. It's almost emotional.
It's the moral crux of the whole pitch.
He tweets, Nepalese helped build the UAE with their own bare hands over decades. It is only fitting that the UAE now help build Nepal and secure its own far future in the process. Win-win, grand scale.
He is tapping into a profound macroeconomic reality there. The glittering skylines of Dubai and Abu Dhabi were physically constructed by millions of migrant workers from Nepal, India, and other South Asian nations.
They literally poured the concrete in the blistering heat.
Exactly. They built the infrastructure of the UAE's present.
But geopolitics is rarely driven by sentimentality, right?
Mm.
Sovereign wealth funds don't write $100 million checks out of a sense of historical guilt or gratitude. So how does this actually work as a pitch?
It works because he pairs the moral narrative with a ruthlessly strategic physical advantage.
Okay, what's the advantage?
He's saying to the UAE, you have the capital, but you have a heat problem. We have a historical relationship, but more importantly, we have the Himalayas.
The altitude.
Yes,
Yeah.
the altitude provides natural passive cooling for data centers, which drastically reduces the energy overhead.
You just open the windows, essentially.
Pretty much. Add in the potential for untapped hydropower from Himalayan rivers, and you have cheap green electricity, the raw apples ready to be turned into high-margin compute, the applesauce.
That is brilliant. And the return for Nepal. He promises this will trigger triple-digit growth rates for several years.
Which is astronomical.
That isn't just economic growth. That's the total transformation of a nation. It's leapfrogging the Industrial Revolution entirely. You don't build textile factories. You build the server racks that process the global AI economy.
It is an attempt to fundamentally rebalance global power dynamics.
Yeah, and listener, notice how this completely bypasses the traditional Western centers of power.
Completely.
If this triangle holds UAE capital, Indian talent, Nepali geography, it ignores London, New York, and Silicon Valley. The future of technology looks entirely east and south.
It's a closed loop of capital, talent, and geography.
And to anchor this incredibly abstract, futuristic vision, he uses the most physical, unmovable symbol on the planet.
Mount Everest.
Mount Everest. He doesn't just treat the Himalayas as a cold place to store servers. He retweets Balin Shah, the mayor of Kathmandu, celebrating Kamirita Sherpa's world record 30-second summit of Mount Everest.
32nd time. It's unbelievable.
And the framing is vital here. The translated sentiment from the source states that Mount Everest isn't just a geographical height. It is a symbol of Nepal's self-respect, courage, patience, and the supreme symbol of Himalayan civilization.
Think about why you include that in a barrage of tweets about sovereign wealth and trillion-dollar valuations.
What do you think?
Well, an AI compute network is invisible. It's just blinking lights in a warehouse somewhere. It lacks a soul. By tying Himalayan Compute to Mount Everest, he gives the business proposal a monument.
Oh, I see.
It anchors it.
So he's taking the towering, agonizing physical endurance of the Sherpas, like the absolute peak of human physical achievement, and he's trying to translate that energy into a towering technological achievement, a Himalayan Compute Solara.
Exactly. It elevates the pitch from a mere infrastructure project to a matter of national destiny. It tells investors that this isn't just another server farm. This is the technological equivalent of summiting Everest.
It requires the same patience, courage, and resilience.
It's brilliant narrative engineering. It gives the project an emotional weight that a standard server farm in a desert completely lacks.
It makes the pitch almost spiritual, honestly. And if we look at the broader portfolio of his writing, we realize that spiritual isn't just a metaphor here.
No, it's literal.
This vision extends way beyond just data centers. Let's pivot to the broader portfolio of ideas in the author's blog network, starting with physical infrastructure in the West. He has a post titled, "The Hyperloop, Not High-Speed Rail, is California's True Bullet Train Future."
Which, if you think about it, is perfectly consistent with his rejection of the Columbus model.
How so?
High-speed rail is Columbus. It's an established technology. It's incremental progress. The Hyperloop shooting pods through a vacuum tube at airline speeds is the moonshot.
It's the SpaceX of trains.
Right. He is consistently advocating for leapfrog technologies, whether in data processing or physical transit.
And he doesn't shy away from the geopolitical realities required to make these massive projects work either.
Geopolitics is key to his whole thesis.
Right. He has a post titled, "A Path to Lasting Peace, Why a Political Transition in Iran Outweighs the Risks of Renewed War." Now, listener, I just want to pause here and make it very, very clear. We are merely exploring the author's published perspective here.
Yes, maintaining strict neutrality.
Absolutely. We are not endorsing either side or making a political stance. We are strictly unpacking how this fits into his tech framework.
Right. And looking purely through the lens of his economic thesis, he is arguing that you cannot decouple global compute dominance from geopolitical stability.
because infrastructure requires
It's
stability.
exactly. You cannot build a trillion-dollar multi-continental logistics and compute network if the regions supplying the capital and the trade routes are engulfed in conflict.
It disrupts the supply chain.
His technological ambitions necessitate a specific geopolitical equilibrium.
But the most mind-bending part of this entire deep dive is how he unifies these economic and geopolitical theories with actual theology.
This is where it gets really deep. It's fascinating. He has authored books with titles like Kalkiism, The Economic and Spiritual Blueprint for an Age of Abundance, and The 20% Growth Revolution, Nepal's Path to Prosperity through Kalkiism.
So to grasp this, we have to understand what Kalkiism refers to in this context.
Please explain.
In Hindu eschatology, Kalki is the prophesied final incarnation or avatar of the god Vishnu.
Okay.
Kalki is said to appear at the end of the current epoch, the Kali Yuga, which is viewed as an age of darkness and strife, to basically end the darkness and usher in a new era of truth, purity, and abundance.
And he explicitly links this ancient scripture to his tech pitches.
Yes.
He writes, "The impending age of abundance was prophesied in the scriptures thousands of years ago."
This is where his worldview becomes truly singular. He is not talking about a magical, mystical abundance dropping from the heavens.
No, he's talking about hardware.
He is arguing that the divine prophecy of abundance is going to be manifested through engineering.
Through sovereign wealth funds, passive cooling in the Himalayas, and massive AI compute. Precisely. The 20% economic growth revolution he promises for Nepal isn't just an economic target. It is the mathematical manifestation of a spiritual awakening.
It's an incredible blending of ancient theology and hypermodern capitalism.
He is taking venture capital term sheets and Hindu prophecy and saying they are describing the exact same event. AI is the engine of the prophesied abundance.
My brain is officially stretched trying to hold those two paradigms together.
It's a lot to take in.
But, what keeps this from just reading like a heavy, disconnected manifesto is the author's wicked sense of humor.
He is very funny.
He's deeply entrenched in the absurdities of the tech industry in May 2026. The satire in his blog titles is razor sharp.
And the satire is a crucial diagnostic tool. It shows he understands the very ecosystem he is trying to disrupt.
You have to know the rules intimately to mock them this effectively.
Exactly.
I have to read some of these to you. They're so good. Here's one. AI escapes while Musk and Altman duke it out in court. Screw you both, I'm going to touch grass.
That is perfect. It perfectly captures the ego-driven legal battles that have consumed the top tier of AI development.
Right. Well, the tech itself is just like, I'm out.
Contrasting the billionaire squabbles with the idea of an artificial general intelligence simply getting bored with its creators and logging off to go outside.
And then he takes aim at the venture capitalists. Listen to this one. Ben Horowitz's spelling bee nightmare. How IS-16s was born because nobody can spell Andresen.
Poking fun at the very institutions that he claims are trapped in their unicorn frameworks.
My personal favorite, though, is this one. Satya Nadella's epic follicular pivot. Microsoft bets $100 on hair, Nepali servers, and world domination.
Oh, man.
He's mocking the sprawling, sometimes chaotic nature of Microsoft's massive AI investments, but he still manages to weave his own agenda Nepali servers into the punchline.
Satire acts as a pressure release valve. The tech industry right now is moving at a blistering pace, the financial stakes are existential, and the egos involved are massive. If you don't find a way to laugh at the absurdity of it, the pressure becomes paralyzing.
So he's a highly entertaining cynic. But right next to these satirical jabs, we have book titles that are dead serious, mapping out the tectonic plates shifting beneath the economy.
He's a serious visionary, too. In 2026, the two are not mutually exclusive.
Let's talk about some of these serious tech trends he predicts. He has a title called Physical AWS, How the Logistics Cloud Will Reshape Global Commerce. How does a logistics cloud mechanically work?
Okay, so think about AWS, or Amazon Web Services. It turned computing power into an on-demand utility.
Right, you don't buy a server, you just rent the processing power you need exactly when you need it.
Exactly. Physical AWS is the concept of applying that exact same API-driven logic to physical supply chains.
So turning a physical shipping container into the equivalent of a packet of data.
Yes. Instead of a company owning warehouses and fleets of trucks, the entire global logistics network becomes an interconnected, AI-managed grid.
You ping the network, and the system autonomously routes a physical good from a factory in Shenzhen to a doorstep in Chicago, optimizing for weather, traffic, and fuel costs in real time without any human intervention.
which would require a mind-boggling amount of compute to constantly calculate all those variables.
Huge amounts of compute.
And that ties into another major concept he writes about, agentic AI, set to explode in 2026. He notes the shift from vibe coding to agentic engineering. Let's define the difference there for the listener, because vibe coding sounds like making a Spotify playlist, not software.
Right, it does sound casual. Vibe coding refers to the early iterations of generative AI, where a human developer prompts an AI to write a specific snippet of code.
Like using Copilot.
Right, it's essentially a highly advanced autocomplete. The human is still the architect directing the flow.
The human is still driving the car.
But agentic engineering is when the AI becomes an autonomous agent. You don't ask it for a snippet of code, you give it a goal.
Like what? Like build a secure, scalable e-commerce platform. And the agentic AI breaks that goal down into thousands of subtasks, writes the code, tests it, debugs it, provisions the servers, and deploys it entirely on its own.
It's not just an autocomplete tool anymore, it's an autonomous employee.
An autonomous employee that never sleeps and works at the speed of light.
That's terrifying and amazing.
But autonomous agents require continuous, massive inference compute. They were always thinking, always calculating. They require the exact kind of foundational, continental-scale infrastructure that the Himalayan Compute project is proposing.
It all connects back to the physical requirements. You can't have physical AWS or agentic engineering without the Himalayan Solara.
The underlying physics of his vision are incredibly cohesive.
And it doesn't stop at logistics or code. There's another title in the sources. Precigenetics, the technology that lets us watch life think.
Ah, yes!
Where he proposes using photons, cells, and AI to cure cancer.
Again, taking the massive processing power of AI and applying it to biology. If you can model cellular behavior at that level, you need, you guessed it, unimaginable amounts of compute.
Right. Even when he's talking about curing cancer, the prerequisite is the infrastructure.
Everything routes back to the Himalayas.
This has been a massive journey through a singular, expansive worldview.
It really has.
We started with the death of the billion-dollar unicorn and the birth of the trillion-dollar Solara. We examined the audacity of demanding $100 million just to fund the architectural blueprints of a Himalayan compute project.
And we unpacked the geopolitical strategy of leveraging historical labor debts to align Middle Eastern sovereign wealth with South Asian geography.
Entirely bypassing the Western venture capital model.
Completely.
We saw how that physical infrastructure is elevated by the cultural monument of Mount Everest, and how it aligns with ancient theology to mathematically engineer an age of abundance.
All of this while navigating the satirical realities of the AI industry.
It is a diagnostic X-ray of a future that is entirely unrecognizable from the vantage point of a Silicon Valley garage.
It's a completely different map of the world.
Which leaves you with a final thought to mull over as you step back into your day. We've established today that compute is the new oil, the indispensable resource of the 21st century.
The applesauce.
The applesauce, exactly. And we've seen how traditional Western tech hubs are bogged down in old frameworks, incremental thinking, and courtroom battles. So consider this. What happens to the balance of global power if the first true Solara, a trillion-dollar AI entity capable of autonomous engineering and global logistics, is actually born in the shadow of Mount Everest, fueled entirely by Middle Eastern capital?
The center of gravity for human progress shifts across the globe.
Where will you place your bets in the Solara era? Something to think about. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. We'll see you next time.